Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munsell. It is June the 6th, 4:38 p.m., so happy afternoon to you. This is the recorded lecture that goes along with the PowerPoint for day 4 of our online class in the Rhetoric of Tourism. And this PowerPoint goes along with Chapter 2 in our textbook, which is called, what's it called again? What is Sparring with Public Power, the Rhetorical Embodiment of Race, Power, and Conflict in the Monument to Joe Louis in Detroit, by Victoria J. Gallagher and Margaret R. Loire. I'm not aware of, never mind. I thought it was a really good chapter. I'm sort of reading along with you because this is a brand new class that I put together. And so what I'm going to do is simply go through it a little bit and then to sort of help you out with your reading, and then offer you some critical probes that I have sort of teased out of the chapter that will help you with our very first tour. And that very first tour is today. In fact, I actually thought about going to the State House today and doing this recording there. But if you are in the Columbia area, you know that it's pretty nasty, and apparently Tropical Storm Andrea is on the way. And so I decided not to venture around the State House grounds. And one thing that I want to mention, I'll mention this at the end as well. I have emailed you, and as you probably know, if you know me, I'm a very flexible person. I'm very student-centered, and so some of those deadlines from the perspective of time that I've given you, I'm very easygoing about stuff like that, and so if the 9 a.m. thing doesn't work out for you, that's fine. And I've also opened up the threaded discussion, so it's not going to end until 10 p.m. Sunday. Basically, though, what I would like from each of you by the end of the night Sunday is all the various email reflections that you are required to send me. And that would be reflections regarding your summarization of the assignments, the first bit of the introduction, pages 1 through 22, and then the second bit of the introduction, and then the reflection of this reading, Chapter 2, starting on page 87. And then, of course, I'm also giving you through Sunday to do your first tweet, as well as your first blog, which all should come from your visit to the site of, or the memory place of the State House grounds. And I put on the PowerPoint several websites that you can go to do virtual tours, but of course if you live in Columbia, you are very free to go and do a physical tour. And then so far as, so that, yeah, Twitter, Tumblr, email stuff, and threaded discussions. So long as you've done all that by Sunday, that's cool with me. And also, I think I've got pretty much everybody's information about their Twitter accounts and their Tumblr accounts. If you have not sent me that stuff, please do so ASAP. Okay. Hopefully we're all on the same page. The big fight. I did like, this is the second slide. I thought I did really like this chapter. And one of the reasons why I picked it, and it's focused on race, I thought it would be very, very applicable to our visit of the State House grounds. And one of the things that they offer as they are justifying their own study is that a lot of monuments, memorials, or there really aren't a lot of monuments and memorials dedicated to African Americans within urban spaces or places. And and they say that this particular place or memory place, the monument to Joe Louis, or the fist as the locals call it, it's really interesting because it's fluid. There's multiple meanings there. There's multiple things that we can grab from it. It's heroic and anti-heroic. It honors Joe Louis and honors the progress of African Americans, while also asks us to be cautious about things. It evokes memory about all sorts of things. It provokes debate. It can be seen as glorious but also grim. So there's just so many different things going on with this particular monument that, again, this is one of their justifications for studying this monument. And in the first paragraph, basically what they're doing is showing the function of their particular essay or their particular chapter, and the goal to analyze the rhetorical elements of the monument. And they are very explicit when it comes to what they're really all about, so far as the function of their essay. More specifically, it starts on page 87 and it moves to page 88. And they explain, there's a little typo there in the PowerPoint, the examples. They explain that they think that this particular monument, the monument to Joe Louis, functions as a resource for people, for viewers, for tourists, in at least a couple of ways. It says, it functions as a resource for us as scholars trying to understand rhetoric and memory and place, and places of public memory places. And so they say, one, it's a resource for public memory and its reflection and evocation. Is that right? Evocation of fundamental issues regarding the city, that is Detroit, in both its societal and material manifestations. I know that's vague. We'll get back to that. Number two, a resource for cultural projection, providing the rhetorical means, the materiality through which social groups seek to further their own interest and assert some control over public space. And then the next bullet point goes, blah. I know that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You remember, academics are nerds, and we try to write fancy. So we're all really just shy and introverted and have inferiority complex, and so we write in fancy ways so people will like us. So basically it boils down to that this is an interesting text, interesting monument to study, because what it might say about the social, political, racial issues sort of attached to Joe Louis, but also attached to the city of Detroit and the country generally. And it also implies how the struggle over the monument and the meaning and putting the monument together showcases ongoing political struggles when dealing with issues of race and oppression and hegemony and all of that cool stuff. And there's another typo. It should be struggles, not stuggles. Stuggles. Do you want to stuggle? Finnegan, you want to stuggle with me? Okay. So the first bit of this is all just sort of what their essay is really all about, the function, what they're trying to do, and everything like that. The third slide is basically what they say before they get into their analysis. Is they're borrowing some critical lenses. If you've taken a class from me before, we can sort of call this their method. They borrow from some person that I don't know named Deutsch. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Nein. Hables English? Sort of. Hables Spanish? No. Españoles. Nine. So Deutsch views a city as sort of a social practice. So in a sense, what we could say, and this is probably simplifying it, but a city, like a big city, like an urban city, or like a downtown, like booming downtown Columbia, South Carolina, the city that never sleeps. We can interpret it as a big speech or a debate. It's a social process. It's not just a bunch of buildings and the Atlanta Bread Company and Chick-fil-A's and stuff like that. It's a ongoing social process. It's a debate, and they sort of interpret the city and city center and stuff like that. The second thing is that they use two other scholarly treatments, as they put it, as sort of a method. One is that they look at sculpture as public art, and that's what this is a big sculpture of a fist. Wow! Wonder Twin powers activate. Form of a giant ice rhetoric sickle. So sculpture as public art, and then public art as rhetoric. And so that's sort of pretty much sort of the theoretical lens that they briefly talk about before they get to their arguments, and then before they get to their analysis. And they when they get to their arguments, and I really like the way they sort of lay this out. It's very well done so far as what a paper ought to look like. They sort of introduce their topic, they explain what's going on, they explain their function, and then they move on to talking about sort of their theoretical lens, and then they move on to sort of highlight or to preview the arguments that they are going to make. And all of this stuff is laid out on page 89. And so this is what it says. Even though these might be somewhat vague, once they actually get into the essay itself, all these things I think become a little bit more clear. So first, big argument is that this particular monument, the fist, highlights certain values and experiences for a wide audience, and thus has affect or emotional responses, but many different values and different experiences and different responses. But mainly, one could say it evokes the painful history of racism, discrimination, and racial division. So clearly, when we're thinking about this particular monument, we are invested in issues of race. The second argument that they make, and this is on the fifth slide here, they argue that values and meanings are not universal. We don't all have the same values. We don't all interpret the same meanings from a sculpture like the monument to Joe Louis. So folks interpret things differently. That reading is contextual, and it's based within the city of Detroit. So you have to think about Detroit and everything that went on in Detroit to decode or interpret the possible meanings of the fist. And stuff that went on in the 60s and the 70s and beyond. And by the way, I had to look this up. I couldn't find this in the essay, but I think this was actually commissioned, the monument, the fist, in '86. I could be wrong. But also evokes the very notion and the history of Joe Louis as a hero back in the day. And so, but values and meanings are not universal, which means we're never going. It goes back to the idea that rhetoric is partial, and places of public memory are very, very partial, and so people are going to get different stuff from it. The third argument, or general argument, is that the monument invites judgment not only by art world elites, that is it art? Is it? Do they give it a hand? Do they give it a fist? But by the general public. It invites judgment by the general public, the folks who actually see it, the folks who drive around downtown Detroit looking at this thing, and the implications for what it means for a local populace in Detroit. That is, the importance is in part how the local folks sort of interpret it and what they do with it. And again, I know these arguments are sort of vague, but at least this sort of sets us up to sort of understand how they're going to organize the essay, and these are general arguments, and they get into some more specific contentions later on. The next slide, slide 6, justification for the study. Again, I like the way they're doing this, because even though they sort of justified looking and studying this particular monument. At the beginning of the chapter, in the first paragraph, they continue to do so.